So I'm sure you guys have heard of the Osu player named Utami. He's an American top Osu player. He was essentially kind of a little mini MREG back in his time, in his peak, and he used to be a very well-rounded player. I mean, he is, but he'd be setting a lot of 1Ks on very cool maps, and overall, he was just a very good player. But that's probably not the first thing you guys think of about Utami when you hear his name. You're probably not thinking he's a top player. You guys are probably thinking he's more of a weird Rizzler. But before I get into the topic of the Utami situation, I just want to warn you guys that the situation is quite disturbing and a little sensitive. So if you guys do not want that, then click off now. So I'll just bring all up to speed on this topic here. So 17 months ago, Utami was essentially exposed for having these weird sexual relationships with these underage girls. I mean, it wasn't technically illegal because Utami was also underage at the time, but it's just weirdo behavior to be doing this. Like, it doesn't even matter what the age is. Like, you're just having this behavior with any type of girl. You're kind of weird. But he was basically saying these weird rizzing quotes and just saying these very weird sexual things. Like, just to read this post from Osu Drama Days here, he says, 0 days since Osu Drama, Utami exposed for taking advantage of multiple girls that he befriended for his own sexual desires through unsolicited sexual comments, ignoring requests to stop behavior, and gaslighting them into keeping silent about the issue. And then there's a link to the Google Doc where it shows all the evidence, and I won't show the photos here because they're kind of obscene, so I'll send you guys the link in the description below if you want to read about that. But the Google Doc is not really there anymore because it violated the terms of service, and it's just kind of fucked up. But I do remember reading it back then when it came out, so I'll just try to give you guys some brief sparks of inspiration that I saw when I read it and tried to expel it from the top of my head. But I remember one case that Utami was outed for was that he would essentially be in voice chat, like Discord voice chat with girls, and they'll be talking and shit, but he's gonna be like, they're playing Osu, and he's like jelking it into VC. Like, you can hear that shit in the background, like SpongeBob's out here trying to flap his wings. Like, it's kind of like a weird sound, and the girls would be like, what the fuck is that sound? And he would like confess, yo, I was joking it. And like, it's fucking weird, right? He's definitely doing some weirdo behavior, and he was essentially outed for this, brought out like a bug when you open up a rock and there's like a bug and it exposed to the light and they're squirming. Like, that's basically what happened to Utami back then. Ever since that moment there, Utami's reputation has been tarnished to hell. People, when they look at Utami, they're like, wow, this guy is kind of weird. And the community's response to this whole post here is that they just thought he's a freaking weirdo, calling him names like pedophile and sexual assaulter. And then people start making the memes of the Utami Riz. Like, it's just kind of a weird situation, right? And ever since that happened, Utami's reputation's been tarnished, and he's forced to repel back into the shadows. And he made a bit of a small apology where he's like, guys, I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna work on myself because right now my mental health is just kind of fucked up and I just don't have the right thinking. So for the longest time, he just went into the shadows, into hiding, started working out on himself, maybe physically and mentally, going to the psychiatrist. And we haven't really seen Utami for a while. It's been quite a bit of time, and if you do stalk his profile here and there, you're gonna occasionally see that he hops on Osu, plays for a bit, maybe hops off, and maybe he's playing it a lot offline because he still likes the game. But I don't really know about that, because if your community ousted you for this and you have this relationship between the community and the game, you're probably not very motivated to come back and play it. Maybe he comes back to it every so often because he just still likes the mechanics of clicking circles, but I don't know if he has that much motivation to actually play that much and wants to work on himself. But there's been a lot of time since then, and until like recently, yesterday, he made an apology on Twitter actually, and formally announced to everyone, guys, I'm sorry. I'll just read it to you guys really quick here. I think it's a pretty good apology. But he said, over a year ago, I stated a response would be written after what happened. Before making irrational decisions due to a lack of emotional and mental stability, I spoke of trusted individuals stepping away to reflect on everything. I'm sorry to everyone I hurt. There was a lot of misconduct and wrongdoings. No excuses exist for it at all, and I'm sorry for everything that I did. The behavior I had as a person was completely unacceptable and unfair. I acknowledge what I did was horrible, and I accept full responsibility for my words and actions. Time removed from the internet and my own head in general has helped me learn a lot, and there's still a long way to go, but I'm always looking to better myself every day. Therapy sessions, meeting with psychiatrists, and just learning from others to gain knowledge and different perspectives. For some, I've been able to reconcile with, others I wish to do so as well, and I don't want to remove myself from this responsibility, which is why I'm opening up about it now. once again, I'm sorry for everything. So I think this apology is pretty good, and the overall feedback from the community here is pretty positive. People are looking at the situation and saying, yeah, you know, he was a 17-year-old making some weird decisions, because everyone in their teenage years, like, your hormones are going crazy. There's also a bunch of bullshit going around in the world, like COVID. Like, you're gonna have a lot of bad mental thoughts, and people lacking emotional control are going to have to release them somehow. And perhaps Utami's way of releasing those bad mental thoughts is to do this weird sexual behavior. I don't know. I'm not really trying to be the Jordan B. Peterson of Utami here, but that's probably my game theory, because everyone was going through some times, right? Especially at that age, the teenage ages, where you're going to be having these weird thoughts because your hormones are going all fucked up. Like, I'm not trying to excuse his behavior here, but you can't really blame the guy, to say the least. Like, especially if you were in his situation as well, you would probably do the same thing. But overall, the feedback from the community is pretty positive. People think the apology is pretty good, and they're also pretty excited to see him play tourneys again, because Utami is a very good tourney player in the United States team. And if we see Utami play again for OWC, perhaps he'll be going crazy mode and the US will win OWC again. But people might just be bored of seeing the US win again. Utami here, his apology, if I were to give my thoughts on it, I also think it's pretty good, and personally I would also like to welcome back to the community, because it seems like his apology here is very genuine and heartfelt. So I think he does deserve a second chance, despite all of the things that happened 17 months ago, where he was outed for all of those things, and he was also outed for doing that 2 years after the events. And I'm assuming he did change a bit as a person after that event occurred, because 2 years is a long time for a person to change, especially at that age. And I can also say that for myself as well. But that's just my take on it. Utami, I do think he deserves a second chance here, despite all the drama. But that's pretty much all I want to say in this video, and I hope that Utami does go into the future with a flourishing light. Obviously, people are still going to think about his situation here. His reputation is forever going to be tarnished for whatever happened back then in 2021. But I hope Utami continues to work on himself, perhaps until the end of his life. Just because he made an apology here does not mean that the grind stops here forever. So we continue grinding until we die. But that's pretty much all I want to say in this video, and I'll see y'all.